So do you want to start by introducing yourself and your role at TREL?
I'm Lauren Rodriguez. I'm going into my second year at UT Austin. I'm an aerospace engineering major, and right now I'm the systems engineer for Propulsion at TREL. So basically, I'm like more of the managerial lead between the systems engineer and the principal engineer.
Cool. That's very cool. So who do you work with regularly?
I work really, really closely with Chase. He's our principal engineer right now. A lot of what we do is like talking to each other to figure out how we want to lead the team or like what our next steps are and that kind of thing. And then I work really closely with the directors and the other team leads and the other SEs to like keep them updated on what's happening in props and basically be a line of communication.
Nice. So why are you interested in space or rocketry or both?
That's a really good question. I'm one of those like cliches where it started when I was really little. Like I've just always loved space so much. And I just feel like one of the coolest things and what really draws me in is that there's so much we don't know. And there's so much to learn. And so through rocketry and just like space exploration in general, like we get closer to knowing all those things. And I don't think that we ever will. But that's the other cool thing to think about. Like we'll never fully know everything and there's always more to do and like new innovations to be developed and that kind of thing. So it's just endlessly cool basically.
And do you want to talk about your Saturn V Lego rocket, how you got started with that and like when you built it and what the process was like?
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, the Saturn V rocket Lego set is basically my favorite thing in the world. I love Legos and I love rockets, so it's just like the best thing. Putting it together the first time I was really, really excited about it. So I think I just sat down and did that. And I want to say it took a good while. I think it was like 2 hours, maybe 2.5. But I was just really excited. And then I was like, wait, this thing is like half my height. Like if I had 2 of these, it would be like significantly taller than me. So that was fun. And I'm still working on that video for business, the time lapse of me putting it together. So that's been really fun. It's a fun like side project whenever I'm like, oh, I've done a lot of like prop stuff today. Let me go like pull out that video for a few minutes and like take a break.
That's so much fun. My boyfriend and I built the same one, but it took us way longer than 2 hours. It took us like 6 hours.
It's a fun build. Not too long of a build, but it did take a while. And there's some parts where you put it together and you're like, oh, that was wrong. And so you have to like redo it. And
there was like, I can't remember if it was like the second stage or the third stage that like we could not get it to fit on at all. Like it just wouldn't. And
I think I had the problem with the second stage. Yeah, I remember that.
We were so frustrated. But we did it.
Yeah, you did it.
Okay, so have you ever been to a rocket launch?
I have not ever. I watch all the live streams, but that's like a dream of mine to go to a rocket launch, but also to have worked on that rocket. I can't imagine the feeling of like watching something like go up into space and you're like, I had a part in that. Like, oh, it's so cool. I can't imagine what that feels like.
Sorry, I'm reading the questions here.
You're good.
It just like, it went from like that to like, do you have any pets? So
I do. I have 2 dogs and they're my favorite. They have human names. So one's name is Henry. His breed is called, it's like a Havanese, but really he's like a fancy Shih Tzu. Like that's all it is. He looks the same as like any other normal dog. So he's the sweetest. And then we have a little tiny Yorkie. Her name is Stella. Yeah, she's the best. I love her. She sits through all my meetings with me when I'm at home. I'm in Austin right now, but whenever I'm home in South Texas, like she'll just sit on my bed while I'm like on a call. And it's my favorite.
That's so sweet. My cat is sitting here right now.
Oh,
and she just lays here all day. Her name is Belle.
Oh, that's such a cute name. I love that. That's so sweet.
Thank you. Okay, so what is your most interesting story from your time at TREL?
This was pretty recent, actually. This was Saturday. I don't know that it's my most interesting, but right now it's definitely my favorite. So Saturday we had our readiness review, or our first readiness review for our heatsink engine, which is our testing engine. It got designed a long time ago, and so we don't have a lot of the engineers who designed that engine left. So when I had first joined TREL, Vishnu, one of our directors, had been like, hey, do you want to work on putting together assembly instructions for this engine? And it sounded like a really cool project. So I was like, yes, and it has been a really cool project. But basically all this to say is I've been pretty involved in the new documentation and getting ready to fire this testing engine. So we had a review for that, and I had spent the whole day and the day before kind of stressed and trying to make sure we had everything together. The review went pretty well. And right after that ended, some of my trail friends and I were like, hey, like, let's go to Mount Benel and see if we can go see the comet. And it was just like such a great, like, you know, I was working really hard, but I also get to have the fun after with these people that I really care about and who are really passionate about the same things as me. We were there pretty late and like kind of just talking about TREL and like the impact that it's had on our lives. And it was just like, for me, it really captured like that whole, like all of Saturday just really captured like what TREL is to me. Like I'm learning so much stuff that I never thought I would know. And I'm meeting all these incredible people. Yeah. So right now it's definitely my favorite memory.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good one. So you've been working at like Firefly doing all of this?
Yeah, I've been out at Briggs a couple of times trying to get some of that stuff ready. So like last Friday I was out with Chase, our principal engineer. We were just kind of like organizing things and like labeling stuff, which is like, I love to do that. I love labeling things. I love organizing things. So that was really fun. Sometimes if I'm out there and we finish our props work early, like I'll help our TLO people with what like little things they need done. I really enjoy that. I don't go out too much to Briggs, but I try and go like once a week at least.
So how many engineers would you say go out per week? Is there like 10 of y'all in Austin, or like how many are like in Austin and how many go out like every week?
That's a good question. So there's 2 shifts, mostly because of COVID. Completely because of COVID, there is no crossing over of the shifts. So it's like 2 completely distinct sets of people. So we're capped at 6 people total, but people do kind of switch out. Like Chase and I aren't out there every day. So sometimes like COPV will be out there, like from structures, like Katie Layton, our structures SE, will go out. But pretty regularly, I would say in the morning shift, there's almost always 6 people out there. I would say we rotate, maybe 15, 20 people total are out there, like different people are out there weekly. I'm actually living with 2 people from TREL. One of them is on props, Robin. She's our injector RE right now, and then Katie is one of our test engineers out there at Briggs. She's there every single day. She wakes up at 6 in the morning.
Are you
I don't know how she
Katie
does
Mulry?
it. Yes,
Oh my
Katie
gosh,
Mulry.
I love her so much.
Me too. She's sweet. Yeah, she's incredible. She's out there every day, and she's doing really great work out there.
Oh my gosh, she's so nice and such a hard worker. She was we were both on the rowing team for a stint.
Oh yes.
And
she's
awesome.
Incredible.
She was great.
She inspires me. Yeah, she inspires me so much every day. Like living with her, it's been really chaotic because we're very, very different personalities. So it's just like crazy and we're laughing all the time, and like sometimes work doesn't really get done, but we're like, okay, we need to do this. Oh, it's just the best. I feel like we've learned so much from each other and like through each other. Like yesterday I was working on some of my TREL stuff and I was like, Katie, I don't understand this. And she's like, well, what makes you think that I will? But like together we were able to kind of figure it out, and it was cool. It's been really fun.
That's so awesome that y'all know each other. Oh my gosh, she's great. She's wonderful.
I met Katie at the start. I think I met her 2 years ago. We actually had like our we met 2 years ago today because of Snapchat thing. Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago. We met 2 summers ago. We did like a little internship, like high school summer internship type thing, and the NASA High School Aerospace Scholars Program together, like almost back to back. So we spent like 3 weeks of that summer together and have just been really close ever since. Like being at UT with her and being in TREL with her is just like the best. Like we've really grown in our aerospace careers, I guess, or like education together, and it's just been so cool.
Oh, that's so awesome. So did y'all both decide to try out for TREL at like the same time, or did one of you hear about it and like tell the other?
We had a lunch with Zach Weiss. He's one of our test directors. It was just an accident. Like Katie and I were eating lunch, and then Zach came up, and like we all knew people, and he's like, "Can I sit?" And like we all just ended up having lunch together, and it was great. But Zach was already in TREL at this point, and he was telling us about TREL, and I was like, "Oh, like I think I'm gonna apply." But at that point, I was only applying for business because I'm pretty interested in like law school, which is another thing. But I was like, I want to do more like business type things and see what that's like for me. So I started off in business, but at that time I was just thinking about applying. And Katie was in rep, which is like basically if TREL was a class, it's that class. So she was in rep at that point, and she was like, I don't know if I want to apply to be in TREL. And we were like both debating. I think we started thinking about it at the same time, but I don't know about actually applying at the same time. But we did start doing TREL work at around the same time, which is cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Okay, so what is one fact about rocketry and business that people often get wrong?
I mean, I guess the big one is that business and engineers work together a lot more than you would think. I was super surprised when I was on the business team and they were like, hey, can you go talk to these engineers? And I was like, wait, why? Like, but it's so important that they, work together. They're so distinct, but we're all working towards the common goal. We all just really want to launch a rocket. So I think seeing the business teams and engineering teams like integrate when they need to is really important and something that I wasn't expecting at all when I joined the business team on TREL. Me being integrated with engineering teams is actually how I ended up on Propulsion. Like, I was just talking to Chase pretty regularly to the point where him and Vishnu were like, you can start doing some technical work if you want. Like, you are an engineer. And I was like, okay. Little did I know I would end up like as one of the leads for the Propulsion team. But that just goes to show like how integrated business and engineering sides of rocketry can be and probably should be. I think it's really important that they're integrated in that way.
That's awesome. So what was your experience like being kind of that middleman between the engineering and the business side?
It was really, really interesting because I didn't know, well, I still like to say that I don't know anything that's happening on the engineering side. I'm learning. But at the time, it was a little bit harder to learn because I wasn't like in the engineering team, like actively. Chase would just like say these words and I was like trying to write them down. He's like, that's not how you spell that. And I was like, well, I don't know what the word means, So that's definitely like one of the big things. Or just like when I first joined, I walked into the TREL room and they were doing a design review for the props team. And one of our other directors, Grace, was like, hey, can you take notes for this? And I was like, sure, that won't be difficult at all. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do on TREL because I was just so in the middle that like I didn't know what was going on, but I knew what I needed to be doing. But it was fun. I will say, despite the not knowing, I enjoyed it so much. And I got to meet a lot of really cool people on both the engineering and business teams. I think it was a perfect way for me to get involved in TREL. Even knowing now that I really, really like Propulsion, I think I still would have started out in business just because I did enjoy being kind of in the middle and getting to learn a little bit of everything so that like now that I'm on props, I feel like I understand a little bit better what's happening on the business side, which I think is important as a systems engineer because I do talk with Bryce a lot. And a lot of what we're doing in Propulsion right now is based off of business deals that I wouldn't really have known too much about if I hadn't been on business in the first place. So
nice, sweet. So do you want to be an astronaut one day?
This is a silly response, but I think if the opportunity arose, I would be like, yeah, sure, but it's not something I actively am like, I'm gonna do this. Does that make any sense? Like,
that does make sense.
I would, but it's not like my main like aspiration. Though I do think it would be like the coolest thing ever, and I definitely will see myself applying, but like kind of on a whim, be like, oh, let me just like apply to this and see what happens. I think it would be cool to do, especially with everything that's happening right now. Like the space industry is shifting so much, and astronauts are going to be so important. They already are, but like I feel like the role is just becoming like increasingly more important, and so many like historical milestones are going to be happening soon. So I feel like now is a really cool time to be thinking about being an astronaut. Aerospace is so cool and there's so much that you can do, and I think right now I'm in a spot where I don't know exactly what I want to do, and I'm very open to pretty much anything right now.
It's so funny to hear people's different responses to that because like if you ask me, I'd be like, no, I would never. Like, ew, why would I want to go to space? That sounds scary. And then some people are like, yes, that's like my dream.
Yeah, definitely. There's like, I feel like there's hardly ever a middle ground, which is why I was like, oh, is this weird? Like, I definitely feel like when I have the middle response, people are like, what do you mean? Like, you either do or you don't. But I hate to say I'm indifferent, but I think I'm a little bit indifferent to whether or not I would become an astronaut.
I mean, I think that's okay. That's a good way to be. It's a little too scary for me because I'm a wimp. But so what is one piece of advice that you would give to incoming freshmen that are unsure if they want to pursue science or business?
Well, I think TREL business is a great place to start because even if you're not like my role was meant to be directly working with some engineering teams, even if you're not doing that, you still get to really see what's going on in TREL. And I think that's a great place to start. But I guess like with that said, just explore, join orgs and see what you can do and find what you're passionate about. And I think in finding a career, it should never be a matter of money or like logistics, it should just be like, what do you love? Set aside like your overthinking and just go out and do things and find what really, really makes you happy and then pursue that. I think that's probably the best advice I'd give.
That's really good advice.
Thanks.
And last question, what are your future career goals? You talked about wanting to go to law school.
Yeah, okay, so this is super up in the air and I can talk about this forever, but I'll try and kind of keep it short. So Growing up, I was actually not that into STEM. Not until high school did I really think like, oh, this is what I like. Not necessarily what I was good at. I was not great at STEM in high school, but I really, really loved, I was in like AP research and AP seminar, which are kind of based on like argument development. And I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. And I've always really loved like English and reading and writing. So I was like, I want to, like, I think going to law school is a really good fit for me. And I like these things, but I really like STEM. And then I was at an internship program and I heard my mentor say something about patent law. And he's like, yeah, you can start out as like an engineer and then go to law school. Like, that's a thing. And I was like, that's a thing? Like, I can do that. So kind of since then, I really thought about space law and like space policies. Like I talked about, like space exploration stuff is really shifting right now. And so I feel like by the time I graduated law school, there would be like a very real career opportunity for me there, and like a chance to do like, you know, the two things that I love, like aerospace engineering and like all that reading, writing, and like argument development stuff. And that I have a chance to like help not pioneer, but really be heavily involved in the creation of those policies early on. But then I joined TREL, and now I'm doing engineering work, and I'm like, wait, I love this so much. So I kind of just want to also just be an engineer. And I've learned that I really like, through being SE, that I really like project management type things and like mission operations, those kinds of thought processes. So I'm kind of split between that. I think I'm just going to stay really involved in TREL, and I'm pursuing a minor in philosophy of law right now, and kind of just see where that takes me. I met someone who is currently doing like both law school and getting her master's in aerospace. So I'm like, that's a possibility, though I don't know that that's for me. Like, that sounds like a lot of work. But I'm honestly, right now, I'm just like enjoying it and learning everything that I can from like my minor and from TREL. And I'm just going to see where that takes me over the next few years, because I have time, honestly.
You do have time. You have plenty of time. To like a law degree and a master's degree does sound like a lot of work right now.
It sounds crazy. I don't know that that's the route for me, but it's good to know that it's an option if I decide that that's what I want for
Somebody could do
myself.
it.
Yeah, somebody.
Would not be me, but okay. Well, I think that is it. It was really nice to talk to you.
Great. You too. It was fun. Thank you so much, Christina.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.